The hall was silent except for the low hum of alien energy fields. Captain Elias Varn stepped forward, his boots echoing on the polished metal floor. He had fought in countless battles for the human colonies, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Before him stood the alien emperor, Kael'thar, a being taller than most humans, with smooth silver skin that shimmered under the bright lights. His eyes were deep, like pools of liquid starlight, and they seemed to see everything. Elias had been summoned without warning. No one knew why a human warrior would be called into the emperor's presence. Around the hall, alien nobles and soldiers watched silently, their faces unreadable, their many limbs folded in strict respect. The air felt thick with tension, as if every breath could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Captain Elias Varn, the emperor's voice rang, clear and calm, you have proven courage beyond your rank, and wisdom beyond your years. Today, I entrust you with something that no human has ever owned. A murmur spread across the hall. Aliens gasped. Some whispered in fear. Humans were always treated as weak, servants of the Empire, fighters only for the scraps of war left by the great alien races. For the Emperor to give a human anything at all was shocking. Then, from behind the Emperor, a massive shadow moved. Elias blinked, and his eyes widened. A dragon. Not the fire-breathing kind of human stories, but a living, breathing, alien dragon, larger than a small spaceship. Its scales were dull, scratched, and missing in places. One wing was broken, hanging limply by its side. Its eyes, however, glowed faintly, showing intelligence and fear all at once. The dragon made no sound, but Elias could feel the tension, the pain, and the mistrust radiating from it. It had been through battles, survived attacks no one could imagine, and now it was being handed over to him. This creature, Kael'thar said, his voice softening slightly, was once my greatest warrior. It is broken, but it still carries power that can change the fate of many worlds. Its life is now yours. Care for it, train it, and in return, it may change yours. Elias stepped closer, his heart pounding. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from awe. No human had ever been entrusted with such responsibility. The dragon shifted its gaze to him, its golden eyes studying him like a judge. It flared its damaged wings slightly, a silent warning, but Elias knelt anyway. It's okay, he whispered, keeping his voice calm. I won't hurt you. I promise. The dragon hesitated, then lowered its massive head just slightly, testing him. Elias could feel its strength, even in its broken state. This was no ordinary beast. This was a creature of legend, a fighter that could have crushed entire armies if it were whole. And now, it was depending on him. Around them, the hall remained silent. Aliens stared, unsure if this human would survive the task ahead. Some smirked, thinking the dragon would reject him and kill him in a moment of weakness. But Elias felt something else. A spark of hope. Kael'thar stepped closer. Do not fail, he said simply. Then he gestured, and the dragon shifted its weight, stepping fully into Elias's path. The galaxy watches. Elias took a deep breath and extended his hand toward the dragon. It sniffed the air, then hissed softly. The sound was low and dangerous, but it was also a test. Elias didn't flinch. He moved slowly, keeping his hand open and steady. Hours seemed to pass in seconds. The aliens watched, some whispering theories, others holding their breath. Slowly, the dragon lowered its massive head and touched Elias's hand with its snout. A small shiver ran through its body, but it did not pull away. Elias smiled faintly, feeling the first connection. He didn't know what the Emperor had planned, or what dangers awaited him, but in this moment, he knew one thing. He could not fail. Not this dragon. Not the hope that it represented. As the ceremony ended, Elias led the dragon out of the hall. Every step echoed on the metal floor, and every eye followed them. Outside, in the pale light of the alien sun, he saw the scars on the dragon more clearly. Its missing scales, its broken wing, they were marks of survival, not weakness. And just like him, this creature had endured more than most could imagine. Elias placed a hand gently on the dragon's shoulder. "We'll get through this," he said softly. "Together." The dragon looked at him, and for the first time, Elias thought he saw something like trust in its eyes. Not complete trust, but the beginning. And in that moment, something shifted in Elias's chest. This was no ordinary mission. This was not just survival. This was the start of something greater, something that could change not just their lives, but the fate of the galaxy itself. And as the alien sun set behind the mountains of the distant world, Elias knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Elias led the dragon down the narrow cliffs of Ashen Vale, a remote planet far from the Emperor's eyes. The wind whipped around them, carrying dust and the scent of strange, alien plants. The dragon moved slowly, its damaged wing dragging along the rocks. Every step reminded Elias of the enormous task ahead. This was not just a creature in pain, it was a warrior used to freedom, power, and respect. Now it had to trust a human. The first night was the hardest. Elias had prepared a small shelter near a hot spring, hoping the warmth would soothe the dragon's injuries. He tried to offer food, but the dragon hissed, snapping its jaws just inches from his hands. Its eyes burned with fear and anger. Elias stepped back, careful not to provoke it further. "I know you're scared," he said softly, "but I won't hurt you. You'll see." The dragon lowered its head slightly but did not move closer. It stayed curled on the ground, one large eye watching Elias as if weighing every motion. Elias spent hours near it, speaking quietly, showing no fear. Sometimes he touched the dragon's scales gently, enough to let it feel he was real but not a threat. He slept nearby, leaving a small fire between them, and every night he woke to make sure it had water and warmth. Days passed, and slowly, small changes appeared. The dragon began to eat the food Elias offered, though reluctantly. It allowed him to touch the damaged wing without snapping. And one night, when a sudden storm hit Ashen Vale, the dragon pressed its massive head against Elias's shoulder, seeking shelter. Elias felt a shiver of hope. The first spark of trust had appeared. Training began after a week. Elias needed the dragon strong again, but he knew he could not force it. So he used patience. He showed the dragon how to stretch its wing, how to balance on rocky surfaces, and how to move quietly through the veil. At first, the dragon stumbled and fell, frustrated and angry. Elias would rush to steady it, whispering encouragement. "You can do this. You're stronger than you know." The real test came when a pack of wild predators, massive creatures with jagged teeth and glowing eyes, attacked the veil. Elias and the dragon were walking near a cliff when the creatures leapt from the shadows. The dragon roared, a deep, trembling sound that shook the ground. Elias jumped to its side, pulling out his plasma rifle. The dragon moved instinctively, striking with its claws and teeth. Elias fired carefully, aiming not to hurt the dragon, but to drive the predators away. They fought together, a strange team, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses in real time. By the end of the battle, the predators were driven off, but the dragon was bleeding from a deep gash on its flank. Elias quickly used a makeshift medkit, pressing bandages against the wound and murmuring words of comfort. "You see," Elias said, breathing hard. "We survived together. Not apart." The dragon's eyes met his, wide and alert, but now there was something else there. Recognition. A silent understanding that they depended on each other. Elias felt a weight lift from his shoulders. This was the beginning of a bond that could withstand anything. Over the next few weeks, the dragon grew stronger. Its scales regained some shine, and the broken wing slowly healed with careful stretching and rest. The dragon began to respond to Elias's commands, not just obey them. It would leap across cliffs when he gestured, follow him through the forests, and even playfully nudge him when he was tired. Elias, in turn, learned the dragon's moods. He could read its hisses and growls, its small flickers of tail and ears, and know when it was fearful, angry, or ready to fight. They became partners in the truest sense, learning each other's language through gestures and trust. One evening, as the two watched the alien sunset paint the sky in reds and purples, Elias spoke softly. "You've come a long way. Soon, the galaxy will see what we can do together. And I promise, I'll protect you no matter what comes." The dragon lowered its head toward him, a gesture Elias took as agreement. Though it could not speak, its presence spoke volumes. Courage, loyalty, and hope had begun to grow, like fire in the cold dark of the universe. But Elias knew the real challenges were not behind them. This was only training, only survival in Ashen Vale. Soon, the galaxy would test them both in ways they could not yet imagine. Other humans might cheer, other aliens might fear, but the path ahead was full of danger, betrayal, and war. And they would have to face it together. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, the dragon stretched its healed wing, flexing muscles that once were weak. Elias stood beside it, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the strength of possibility. For the first time, he believed that a human and a broken dragon could not only survive the galaxy, they could change it. And in that quiet moment, as the wind swept across the veil and the alien night settled over the mountains, Elias realized that courage was not just in fighting, it was in patience, trust, and the willingness to risk everything for something greater than oneself. Word of the human and his dragon spread faster than Elias expected. Whispers reached distant worlds. Some humans cheered secretly in hidden colonies, hoping that courage could shine through the oppression of alien rulers. Other aliens, however, were not pleased. A traitorous general, Tarek Voss, had heard of the dragon and its human companion. He saw an opportunity to seize power, to take the dragon for himself, and to weaken Emperor Kael'thar. Elias felt it before he understood it. While walking through a narrow canyon in Ashen Vale, the dragon stiffened, its ears and tail flicking nervously. Elias stopped, scanning the shadows. He could sense movement. Small, fast figures slipped between the rocks, armed scouts sent to capture the dragon. "Get ready," Elias whispered. The dragon growled, low and threatening, a sound that made the air vibrate. Elias smiled faintly. They had trained for this. The first attackers charged, weapons glowing. Elias fired carefully, taking down two before they could reach him. The dragon leapt, its claws cutting through the alien metal like paper. Elias dodged, rolled, and kept firing. For a moment, it felt like chaos itself had descended on the canyon, but Elias noticed something terrifying: more reinforcements were approaching, moving faster than he could fight. "We can't hold them all," Elias shouted, and the dragon's roar answered, echoing off the cliffs. It was more than a sound, it was a warning, a challenge. Elias and the dragon worked together, moving as one. The dragon knocked enemies off cliffs while Elias picked off attackers that tried to sneak behind. Every movement, every strike, was a conversation between them. Finally, the last scout fell. Elias leaned against a rock, panting, while the dragon crouched beside him, bleeding slightly from a claw scrape. He knelt, pressing his hands to the wound, muttering, "We survive. We always survive." They had won the skirmish, but Elias knew this was only the beginning. Tarek Voss would not stop. If the dragon was his prize, the general would bring fleets, armies, and spies. Elias realized that Ashen Vale, their sanctuary, was no longer safe. They would have to move. The dragon, once mistrustful and fearful, now trusted Elias enough to follow his orders without hesitation. It lifted its broken wing carefully, testing strength, and flapped with effort. Elias felt a rush of pride. They had survived together. They had grown together. And yet, the danger beyond the cliffs was greater than anything they had faced. That night, Elias sat near the fire, studying the stars. The dragon lay beside him, its head resting on his knee. "They think they can take you from me," Elias said quietly. "But they don't understand us. They never will. The dragon's eyes, glowing faintly in the firelight, seemed to confirm his words. It was not just a dragon. It was a partner, a friend, a weapon, and a symbol of courage. Days later, as they traveled through a narrow valley, they noticed signs of ambushes everywhere, traps cut into the rocks, alien devices to detect heat and movement. DracoWar's spies were clever. They had studied Elias's movements and tried to predict his path. Every shadow could hide an enemy, every rustle of wind could hide a sniper. The Vale, once a safe haven, had become a dangerous maze. Elias realized that the galaxy was watching. Not just humans, not just aliens, but everyone. The bond between a human and a broken dragon had already inspired hope in hidden colonies. Now, it was a threat to corrupt leaders. If Elias failed, it could mean death, not just for him, but for the small sparks of resistance across the stars. He devised a plan. Using his knowledge of alien technology, he set traps along the cliffs, false paths, decoys, and signals to mislead the spies. The dragon, now stronger, learned to navigate the traps with him. It could leap across dangerous ledges, sense hidden enemies, and react faster than any human or alien could. Together, they became more than hunter and prey. They became a force that could survive impossible odds. One night, Elias dreamed of the Emperor, Kael'thar, watching him from the shadows. He wondered if the gift of the dragon had been a test, a way to see if a human could rise above fear and weakness. The dream faded with the morning sun, leaving him with a new resolve. They could no longer hide. The galaxy was turning its eyes toward them, and they would have to step into the storm. By the time they reached the edge of Ashen Vale, Elias understood the truth. This was bigger than survival. This was about courage, trust, and the spark of hope that humans could bring to the galaxy. The dragon had healed, but more importantly, it had learned to fight alongside him. And Elias, once just a warrior, had become more than a human soldier. He had become a leader, ready to face the shadows that sought to destroy them. And in the darkness beyond the mountains, where DracoWar gathered his forces, a signal was sent, a warning that the human and the dragon would not be defeated easily. A galaxy that had always underestimated humans was about to see what courage, determination, and a broken dragon could accomplish together. Elias and the dragon moved quietly through the ruined cities of the outer colonies. Humans had lived here for generations, struggling under the weight of alien rulers. They had no leaders, no hope, only the endless shadow of oppression. But now, word of Elias and his dragon had spread, and whispers of courage began to ripple through the streets. Small groups of humans watched from alleys and rooftops. Children peeked around corners, eyes wide with wonder. Farmers, merchants, and even old soldiers began to feel something they hadn't felt in decades: hope. Elias could sense it. The dragon, with its healed wing and shining scales, radiated power, but it was the human beside it who inspired them. Humans could fight. Humans could survive. Humans could change the galaxy. Elias knew it was time. They could no longer hide. The traitorous general, DracoWar, was gathering armies to seize the dragon. If they waited, countless humans and other oppressed species would be crushed. They needed to strike first, not as soldiers, but as a symbol. Their first target was a weapons depot hidden in the mountains. Elias had learned its layout from scouts and the dragon's keen senses. They arrived at night, under a sky full of stars that glimmered like distant fires. The dragon's glowing eyes lit the path as they moved silently, avoiding patrols and security drones. Every step tested their coordination, but they had trained for this. They were more than human and dragon now, they were a single team. Inside the depot, Elias moved carefully, disabling traps and opening storage doors. The dragon crouched beside him, its massive body blending into shadows. When alarms suddenly blared, the dragon reacted instantly, smashing control panels with its claws. Sparks flew, and metal twisted as Elias fired at incoming guards. The humans hiding in the depot watched in awe as a single human and a dragon tore through their oppressors. By the time the fight ended, the weapons depot was theirs. Elias did not celebrate. Instead, he turned to the humans watching him. "You see what we can do," he said quietly, "if we fight together, if we trust each other. This is only the beginning." The message spread fast. Humans across other colonies began organizing secretly. Aliens loyal to Tarek Vos grew nervous. They could not understand why one human and a broken dragon inspired rebellion. But Elias did not wait for them to understand. He struck again, hitting supply lines, freeing captured humans, and rescuing species that had been enslaved for generations. Each act of courage inspired more to join. The dragon, once afraid and broken, now soared above battlefields, carrying Elias on its back. Together, they were unstoppable. Elias learned to read the dragon's instincts perfectly. They could flank enemies, predict attacks, and retreat when needed. Every battle strengthened their bond, and every victory gave humans hope that they were not powerless. Tarek Vos became desperate. He sent spies, ambushes, and even elite alien warriors, but nothing worked. Elias anticipated every move, outsmarted every trap. He knew that courage was not only in fighting, it was in thinking, in risking, and in protecting those who could not protect themselves. One evening, Elias looked over a colony newly freed from oppression. Humans cheered, waving flags they had hidden for decades. Children ran alongside the dragon, touching its scales with wonder. The dragon lowered its head, letting them climb gently on its back. Elias smiled. This was more than victory. This was hope. This was proof that humans could rise, no matter the odds. But Elias knew the rebellion had only just begun. Tarek Vos would not give up. Entire fleets would move against them. The Emperor might watch silently, testing him still. And somewhere beyond the stars, other threats waited, watching for weakness. Yet Elias felt no fear, not of armies, not of betrayal, not of impossible odds. He had learned the greatest lesson: courage, combined with trust, could change the galaxy. The dragon stretched its wings against the fading sun, its shadow casting over the liberated humans. Elias climbed to its back, feeling the wind and power beneath them. "We've done well," he whispered. "But the fight is far from over." The humans cheered as they flew above the colony, seeing for the first time what courage and determination looked like. Word would spread, faster than fleets and armies, faster than fear. Humans could inspire, unite, and lead. Even a broken dragon, when paired with a human, could become a symbol powerful enough to shake an empire. As night fell over the colony, Elias looked at the stars, thinking of the battles to come. The galaxy had begun to change, and humans were at the center. And he knew, without doubt, that together with his dragon, he would meet whatever came next with courage, hope, and unyielding determination. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Across the stars, humans whispered the name of Elias Varn and his dragon. He had begun as one man with a creature others called broken and weak, but together, they had become a symbol. They had shown that courage, determination, and trust could stand against empires. Elias and the dragon landed on a high plateau overlooking the capital of the outer colonies. The city had been under alien rule for centuries, and fear had long kept the people silent. Now, humans poured into the streets, gathering, cheering, and waving banners. They had heard of the victories in Ashen Vale, of supply lines freed, of captives rescued. Hope was rising like the sun over the alien cities. From the distance, Elias could see fleets moving. Tarek Vos had not given up. He had gathered a massive army, believing that sheer force could crush the rebellion. But Elias knew better. This was not just a fight of weapons and ships, it was a fight of courage and belief. If humans and other oppressed species could rise together, no army, however large, could break them. The dragon roared, a sound that shook the mountains and echoed across the city. It stretched its powerful wings, now fully healed, and Elias climbed to its back. Together, they flew above the crowds, visible to every human below. Children pointed, adults cheered, and even some aliens looked on, confused by the strength of a species they had underestimated for so long. Elias raised his hand, and the dragon lowered its head in a gesture of unity. "You are not alone," Elias shouted. "Together, we can change the galaxy. We can take back our freedom." His voice carried across the city, reaching the farthest alleys and the highest towers. The effect was immediate. Humans who had hidden for decades began to rise, gathering whatever weapons they could find. Former slaves and oppressed species joined the ranks, following Elias's example. Courage spread like wildfire. The once forgotten humans were now a force that could not be ignored. Meanwhile, Tarek Vasa's army approached, confident in their numbers and skill. But they were not ready for what Elias had prepared. Using clever traps, guerrilla tactics, and the dragon's unmatched strength, Elias and his allies struck from every direction. Alien ships fell from the sky, supply lines crumbled, and soldiers who had once mocked humans now fled in panic. The dragon unleashed fire and claw strikes with precision, avoiding civilians and allies. Elias directed the fight, moving with confidence and calm. Together, they were unstoppable, their bond now perfect. Every movement spoke of trust and shared experience. Where one faltered, the other compensated. Where one saw danger, the other reacted before it arrived. Finally, the battle reached the center of the city. Tarek Vas appeared, angry and desperate, commanding elite warriors. Elias faced him, standing firm on the dragon's back. The general laughed, mocking the human and the dragon. "You think you can defeat me?" he shouted. "You are nothing but a broken warrior and a broken beast." Elias's eyes were steady. "You are wrong," he replied. "We are everything you fear." The dragon lunged, knocking the general's forces aside. Elias fired precise shots, disarming Vasa's leaders without killing them. The humans and allies pressed forward, inspired by their courage. The battle ended not with death, but with surrender. Tarek Vas was captured, his power shattered. The Empire's hold on the outer colonies weakened instantly. Word of the victory spread quickly to the Emperor, Kael'thar. He watched silently from his throne world, revealing at last that he had intended this test all along. By trusting a human, he had allowed courage to show its true strength. Elias had not just survived, he had united species, inspired hope, and proven that humans were capable of greatness the galaxy had never imagined. Elias dismounted the dragon and looked at the liberated city. People approached, crying, cheering, and thanking him. Children climbed on the dragon, marveling at its scales and size. For the first time, humans felt that they had a future beyond fear. Elias's heart swelled with pride, but he knew this was only the beginning. The dragon nudged him gently, as if reminding him that the bond they shared had created more than a victory, it had created a legacy. Elias smiled. "Yes," he whispered. "We have changed the galaxy. But there is more to do. And we will face it together." As the stars twinkled above, a new council of humans, dragons, and other species began to form. Plans were made to expand freedom, to protect the weak, and to prepare for threats beyond the outer colonies. And somewhere, in the far reaches of the galaxy, another force was beginning to stir, watching, waiting. Elias knew that future battles would come, but for the first time, he felt ready. He climbed onto the dragon's back one last time and looked out over the horizon. The sun rose over a liberated world, painting the mountains in gold and crimson. He could feel the heartbeat of the galaxy itself, pulsing with change. Humans were no longer victims. Humans were leaders, warriors, and symbols of courage. And with a dragon at his side, Elias Varn knew they could face anything. Together, they had survived impossible odds. Together, they had inspired hope. Together, they had begun to change the galaxy forever. The wind picked up, the dragon flexed its wings, and Elias whispered, "Let's see what comes next." The stars shimmered, silent witnesses to the courage of one human and one dragon, ready to face a universe full of challenges, together.